So you might have been through something that's traumatic. I'm not going to go through what constitutes trauma versus what doesn't. I think that if you're dealing with something, a memory, a painful experience, I don't care about labels. Label it whatever you so want. But what do we do with it then? If there is something that lives over and over again in your mind, that repeats, that keeps you up at night, that is stopping you from moving forward, whenever you see a rock in your path, you can go underneath it, you can move it out of the way, you can go over it. But there is sometimes that the rock is actually in your backpack, and that would be trauma, and you're just carrying it around. And that makes every single step of your journey more heavy. And the problem with trauma is that it can be in so many different flavors and colors, and it can affect you in so many different ways. Sometimes it's difficulty sleeping. It might be difficult in going through different experiences. It might be causing an attachment issue when you're constantly fear of failure or disappointing people or being abandoned or overdoing it and becoming a caretaker. But no matter what it might be, let's go through some techniques that can help you today to be able to breathe more easily. So one of the first things to do is to be able to recognize and to be able to have the vocabulary. That is a difficult thing. I'm not just going to go through what it is, but just to go through how does your trauma affect you? And I like to go through this on pen and paper or on the computer, be able to write it down. What happens to you and how is your trauma stopping you? After you write that down, then we have to go through some really difficult truths. For a lot of times, we lie to ourselves. Not only do we lie to ourselves, we're so very effective at it. And we're often doing that because it's scary to open up that closet with that dark box that no one wants to go into. But that's what healing has to take. And you can just go through in little tiny steps. Now, when you do this, the first thing is to be caring, thoughtful, and loving to yourself. You don't want to down yourself. Ooh, if I was a real strong person, this wouldn't have happened to me, or this is weak, or this was horrible. If you're going to bully and be abusive to yourself, you are not going to heal very well, and that might be why it might be difficult to go through this. So you want to do it in a really loving, caring way. To know that sometimes it's okay not to be okay, and understand that it's a process. So you go through what happened that causes you this pain, but what are the things it left you with? What is the negative self-talk or belief of yourself that you went through? Sometimes it could be just mean words that you say to yourself, or maybe it could be a belief system that it's changed who you see yourself or how you see the world. And then you want to go through what actually is the truth of this. Now, just because, and often we do things like labeling or other maladaptive coping mechanisms like saying we're stupid. Now, just because you do something that might be dumb doesn't mean that you are dumb. That happens. People make mistakes. That's part of being human. But that doesn't mean that we are the mistake. And I think that for a lot of times, that's what happens to us when we label enough. We become part of the labels. And so what you want to do is you want to write that down and actually go through the truth. Now, easy way to do that is if you wouldn't say it to someone else or you wouldn't believe that of someone else that went through what you went through, then it's not true to you either. The next step is to be able to see what parts of your life you want to reclaim and in which ways do you want to do it. And then you make tiny little steps, little tiny 5-minute things of going towards the thing that you're scared of. Now, again, make sure that this is not dangerous or going to cause you more harm than good. That's not healthy. So something tiny, something manageable that won't increase your anxiety for more than like on a 10 scale, like a 6. Like it makes you feel a little uncomfortable and then you just sit with that and you breathe. And then the last part would be to be proud of that journey. You can let me know in the comments what would be your steps. What are the things that you're going towards that might be scary, or what are the parts of yourself that you're going to start to accept and be kind to instead of abandoning? Because remember that trauma often stops us and disjoints us from having a healthy relationship with ourselves, not just with others. And so often the way that you start is that placement of being that kind, loving, caring figure to yourself. And that begins the healing process. It may be many steps, but just because it might be difficult or long doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. Really, everyone is worth living better. You deserve it. So hopefully this will give you some tips and techniques to be able to start that journey.